Normally, I wouldn't really cover this, because somehow this is not a topic that would normally get me going. But after some time of delving into individual League of Legends communities, which also includes specific champion mains, I learned about a topic that sometimes gets people riled up. And that is emote collecting. A subgenre of skin collecting, I guess. And it's very special when it comes to collecting emotes for a specific champion. That's right, if you are playing League on daily basis, the chances are you might have a main for whom you are collecting all the things. Be it skins, icons, emotes, it is actually quite a common thing. And it has a very specific name. Attachment. And realistically, that's the big reason behind the success of League's IP. People simply love the champions no matter what game or show they appear in. But sometimes this may also backfire when the cosmetics are just out of reach for the average audience. And that is what we are talking about today. Because once again, we're getting an emote that is locked behind something pricey. And from a certain perspective, it makes sense why Riot is doing this. And that is the interesting thing. So, let's dive into this surprisingly complex issue. First of all, let's talk about emote collecting. As I mentioned, collecting cosmetics for specific champions is quite common. And Riot knows that, hence why we are getting cosmetics for all the champions across the entire pool. The most recent good example of this are the updated icons. Literally every champion now has their own icon, which has not been the case for the last 8 years before that. And it's because Riot realized that people really want to show their dedication to a specific champion on their profile. Before this, outside of limited promos and event icons, the only thing we had were the chibi icons which came from randomized loot boxes. The thing is, there was actually a lot of people who gambled a lot of their currencies to get that one specific icon. In fact, that was the first spark of something interesting. The players were willing to spend to get things for their favorite champion. Now, of course, this has always been the case, especially in the early 2016-ish era. There were a lot of people who collected every single Ahri skin and they bragged about it, even though in-game you can only ever use one. But for the most part, that used to be exclusive to the whales. Well, since then, not only has been spending in games normalized, which means that you get far more spenders on average, but also by adding icons and emotes that stack on top of the skins, well, now you have a whole new interesting market. And this is the case especially with emotes. Because while you can only ever use one skin on a champion, you can now use up to 9 different emotes together with that. Not to mention the extra emotes for First Blood and stuff like that. And the funny thing is that we know that Riot realized how powerful emotes can be, because it originally started with only 5 slots for emotes and then they expanded it to 9. And so now, how are people utilizing it? Well, if they really like a specific champion, they like to theme their entire profile around them. They play their favorite champion with the skin, they use their icon, and they shove in as many of their emotes as possible. And that is all for the sake of immersion. And to be honest, it is cool to see when someone manages to just build a full deck like that. But sometimes, finishing that collection comes at a price. Quite literally, I am afraid. So, currently there is a decent variety when it comes to what champions have their own emotes. I believe now we still have about 30 different champions who don't have one. But for the most part, the majority should have at least one emote. And Riot is slowly but surely filling up the rest of the gaps. And so far, if you ask anyone about emote collecting, they are all gonna tell you that it is a pain to deal with. And that's mainly because these emotes come from everywhere. Some are simply bought, others come from battle passes, both of which is totally fine. Some are limited behind timed events, which kinda sucks because the emote roster is already quite limited. But out of all of these places, the one that has the biggest pool of different champions are esports. Specifically, the random drops for watching esports. Here, it is genuinely hard to find a champion who has more than one emote. They are simply doing a great job at representing the entire roster here. But because it is a reward for watching, it has one big downside. A lot of these emotes are not available anymore. But also, the variety between the champions can be this great because these emotes are free. Nobody is paying for these, and so you don't have to focus down popular champions. It's mainly because you wanna make everyone watch esports, not just Ahri mains. So there are no benefits for giving all the emotes to popular champions only. But that is obviously not the case for paid emotes, which is where things are about to get interesting. First of all, recently we got two entirely separate dramas about emotes. There was the wave of emotes designed by esports teams, where the teams tried to make the emotes as good as possible, because the purchases would support the team, which means they all tried to walk the line of what is acceptable, and eventually some of them got censored by Riot. And in the process they also made an oopsie around naming one of these emotes. But besides that, in the same PBE cycle, League also got a new wave of emotes that included some questionable choices. You see, by now you might have noticed that some champions simply have more emotes than others, because emotes for those champions simply sell more. And that's what I was hinting at the entire time. It's because the more popular a champion is, the more likely you are to find a collector in their player base. And again, that's totally fine. There is nothing wrong with being a champion main and having your own metagame for collecting. But Riot knows that is a thing, and so sometimes they try to cash in on that. That's why Kai'Sa is currently sitting on 10 different emotes, Yuumi has 8, and Jinx has 1 too many. But at least all of those look different from each other, which is somehow not the case for the two new ones for Kha'Zix and Briar, which are nearly identical to what we had before. I am really confused about why Riot even added this into the game. It's the same thing. But anyway, all of this is still fine if the price of these is within reason. For example, normally emotes go for about 300 to 350 RP, which would be around 2 or 3 bucks. Honestly, I will say that even that is a lot for an emote. I would expect them to be $1 each, especially since you are using 9 of them. But you can also get a decent chunk of them for free. So, you know what? Here, the price is kinda fair. But other times, acquiring these can be quite finicky. Enter the world of unlocking emotes hidden behind bigger purchases. Not only that, locking emotes for the most popular champions behind bigger purchases. And by bigger purchases, I'm talking about the Faker Ahri kind of microtransactions. That's right, this has been happening in the background for a while. In fact, we are talking about promotions that go back more than 3 years. Thankfully, these deals don't happen that often. They are really rare and they only happen when something special is going on. And every time it happens, the community surrounding the affected champions lets out a collective sigh. So now, let's have a look at the 3 most expensive emotes, which includes one that only came out last week, but also let's mention an emote that is in a bundle that is actually a really good deal. And then let's talk about why all of these even exist. So at number 3 we have the infamous Faker Ahri skin and the entire bundle, which is technically called the Immortalized Legend Ahri. Of course, by now everyone knows what's happening here. The bundle that included a lot of different things was for about $400 to $500, depending on how much you were able to haggle with the system. And in these bundles there were multiple different Ahri emotes. But if you wanted to get all of them, that would still be $500. Now, of course, we already had a lot of Ari mains who bought this bundle, not because of Faker, but because they just really like Ari specifically. But on top of that, there were also some people who bought the $500 bundle instead of the $250 one because they wanted to complete their collection. Also, as a fun fact, the extra emote that pops up as a finisher is not coded as a proper emote. So even if you go to the options and you mute all the emotes, that one still pops up. Now, thankfully, Ari already had a lot of available emotes, some of which were free, with the vast majority of them coming from various events. But, you know, recently I appeared on a trip for a specific esports event, one that was sponsored by KitKat, and KitKat gave me these. So go to Twitter or Instagram or something and tag me in a picture that shows your mastery level. Show me your Ari dedication and I shall give you a chocolatey blessing. Yeah, I'll give you a free emote so you don't have to open your wallet. Moving on the second place of the most expensive emotes, we have the new, fresh from the oven, emote for Lux that is tied to buying a statue. Now, I will say, this statue is gorgeous. I wouldn't dare question the quality. It looks stunningly good. So of course, it is $500 plus shipping, which makes it officially more expensive than the Ari bundle. Now here, a really funny thing can also happen. You can willingly opt out of getting the emote somehow. I have no idea why a living soul would do that, but hey, the option is there. But of course, the most important detail to point out here is that this statue is a limited sale. That's right, why don't we sprinkle in a little bit of FOMO? Now, the thing is, a lot of Lux mains are known for being spenders. I mean, it's mostly by proxy because Lux is one of the most popular champions in League of Legends. So of course, you're gonna get a lot of people who buy these statues just for the emote. With the big twist being, that emote is not that great. Sure, it is animated, but it feels creepy. And that's not just me saying this. That came from the Lux mains. Really feels like low effort. It's good enough to annoy people with. Mom, I want to have the Lux emote. We have the Lux emote at home. The Lux emote at home. I don't know why, but the emote is creepy. And yeah, I will say it's mostly because the face is not animated. Like, make her close her eyes in a cheerful way. Because the death stare is scaring me. But yes, that is what Lux is currently sitting at. Which means it is time to have a look at the most expensive emote in the history of League of Legends. Which, unironically, might also technically be the most expensive microtransaction in the game's history. It really depends on your definition. And it is one that is not available anymore. So of course, we are talking about the Kaisa emote, which was also tied to a statue. The scary thing here is, it is unavailable, which means it is confirmed Lux will suffer the exact same fate. Now again, I will not question the quality of this statue, it simply looks good. But it begs the question, why would they attach the emote to this? Why would it be tied to $850? Is it really just a thing to give to people as an extra tiny reward? Well, likely not. Because if that was the case, every big statue would get one of these. You know, a digital goodie as a thank you for buying it. And the truth is, not all statues have these. For example, one statue that is far more expensive than this one that is also on the official merch store, and in my opinion it is one that looks far better, is the Captain Fortune statue. This one looks absolutely wild. And somehow, it did not come with an emote. Partially, it might be because Riot thought $1,100 might be a bit too much. But we are already sitting at $850. I think we are way past the point of return. But the reality behind this is that Riot has a good idea of what champions are popular. And they know what digital goodies of what champion would boost the sales of the merch. That's why Kai'Sa and Lux likely got them. It's because these two are the most popular champions in their specific roles. And so, both have a dedicated audience that likes collecting these. And if you question the legitimacy of this, a simple Google search can help. Here is one of many examples of people who want to buy the emote of people who bought the statues. These collectors exist. The thing is, Riot knows they exist, and so you can't just buy the emote of other people. Riot made it so you can't buy the emote dirt cheap. So when you try to buy this, you have to connect your account and you get the emote directly to your account. This way, even if the collectors only want the emote, they have to buy the entire statue. It is a bit of a nefarious scheme, but it works. And honestly, it is a form of very basic marketing. It just sucks that the collectors suffer heavily as a result of it. And this brings up another really interesting topic. Why would Riot attach these digital goodies to physical merch specifically? Wouldn't it be better to put it into other digital bundles if you want to sell it? Well, you see, you may not realize this, but here's the thing. Physical video game merch is not profitable. This is something I wanted to make a video about for a while. And I still need to find a writer from the merch store to interview about this. But in general, the Riot merch store is not in the money-making department. Technically, it is brand building. So nearly every single item you buy is a loss for Riot. And this has been the case for pretty much every video game merch store you can find. It doesn't matter if it's Riot, or Blizzard, or BioWare. There is a good reason why their merch is generally cheaper than when a YouTuber decides to have their own merch. It's because these creators make merch so that they can make a bit of money off of it, which means they have to get a markup. On the other side, the vast majority of video game companies don't really care about that. They only care about the marketing that comes from this. Which means even a simple t-shirt can be like $5 cheaper. And that is also why you get some of these bigger items that are a lot pricier. Not only are these more expensive to make, but also it's the only item where the markup is justified. There is usually a lot of hand painting hidden behind this. Which means these companies want to sell as many of these as possible. Hence why boosting the sales using these limited digital goodies makes sense. And the fact is, just like it happened for the Kai'Sa statue, there will be more Lux statues sold as a result of this. Which is why this expensive emote scheme might seem sketchy, but there is a very logical explanation behind what is going on here. And if there is one thing we learned from Riot, it is that if their marketing works, we should expect more of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if the $850 price was broken eventually. And what's funny is that all of this started with those tiny cheaper statues that also had their own icons. I think they were like 25 bucks each. But thankfully we can end this video by talking about something really cool. And that's because not all of these deals have to be bad. Which is where the new Worlds bundle comes in. Remember how I just mentioned that Riot's merch is not profitable? Well, here we have a bundle that costs $100 with the value that is easily double that. At least when it comes to the costs on Riot's side. And the funny thing is, even Riot knows how good of a deal this is, which is why you have to log into your League of Legends account to buy one of these, and I'm pretty sure it's limited to one per customer. Now, as a part of this bundle, there is a fancy box that has a lot of Worlds trivia around it, a Worlds Baron plushie, that alone would be normally like $50, a Lux statue that can hold a region banner, and of course it comes with a banner for each of the regions, including Worlds. There are also amazing keycaps for all the lanes, and also a trophy. There is a Viego mousepad, and a pin. And what's mind-blowing is that all of this also comes with a lot of digital goodies, especially ones that you would normally buy in League anyway. So, it comes with the World's Pass, that is 15 bucks on its own, but also the Viego World Skin, which is also $10. So if you are buying these two anyway, well now the bundle is only $85. But of course, a lot of people will buy this bundle for the exclusive digital goodies. So here there is an exclusive chroma version of the World's Viego, an exclusive icon, and 2 emotes. One of which is, of course, another Lux emote. So, Lux mains, here you have to make a decision. Are you going for the $500 emote or the $100 emote? Yeah, remember when emotes were $2?